What's up, Jody?
Not much. How are you doing today, Bill?
Good. So last time we left off, we were talking about let's make this tank look bigger, and you were telling me that you had some fish that you were getting from a friend of ours. So tell me about it.
So I got some Krobia Xinguensis from Anthony. Now I have some of these also. Anthony was nice enough to give me his breeding pair of them. They're a hot item right now. They have them at Dan's Fish. They were talking about them on Fishery. I had a discus grow out tank. Anthony was, like I said, nice enough to give me them. I have to keep these fish. They're up there.
Nice. So yeah, we redid this tank, and Anthony, pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank
and
you.
You
Thank
bred
you for having me.
you bred these fish, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I got 8 initial fish, and I was lucky enough to get 4 pairs. So.
Nice. Well, obviously today's a little bit different. We're all moved around. This is only the shed, right? Right, Uncle Joe?
It's pretty small, yeah.
But we're going to try this, and when we have an opportunity like this to interview the people breeding the fish that we're using and really introducing you to as much information as possible. So I think to really start it off, Anthony would tell us about the fish, and Jody, you have a bunch of questions for him, right?
I do, Anthony. So I learned what I learned, a lot of it from you, and then reading, and we'll get into some more of it a little bit later. But like, tell us like where these fish come from. Like, what do you actually know about them?
They come from the Rio Xingu River, and from what I have seen of this river, and I do need to make a caveat, I haven't been there personally myself, so I'm relying on dive videos that I've seen from people who have went there. This is a very rocky river. It is a potentially very deep river. You see a lot of common themes in this river, lots of colorful fish in this river. It's very black water, and it has some current to it as well, some significant current, judging from the divers that I've seen actually dive the river.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. One fun fact, everyone's favorite Pleco, Viello's 4-6, comes from where these fish originally come from, the first spot. Just a little fact there.
What I will tell you is they're really, really a peaceful fish. They're a fish that's a fairly good citizen, meaning it's not going to tear up your tank. It's not going to go after your tetras as long as they're not incredibly small. I've kept them with everything as small as neon tetras to big things like penguin tetras, and it really didn't bother them at all. They're a really good citizen.
So is it like community fish capable? Or?
I would absolutely not lose any sleep putting them in a community tank.
Great.
No, I actually have one that I keep in with my angelfish. I put her in there when she was pretty roughed up, and she's so nice in there that she just stays in there. I enjoy her in there, and she seems to like it really well too.
Nice.
What are the conditions of the river like? What, like the water conditions, like with the pH and just different things like that there that people could use to try to mimic. We have it here, we know, but just so people can know, like, what do you know about that kind of stuff?
I must admit I don't know the hardness of it, but I suspect it's hard. And the reason why I suspect it's hard is because the pairs that I got had no problem with viability in our water. And for those of you that don't know, here in South Florida, we basically have liquid rock as far as TDS is concerned. I'm guessing it's neutral, and somewhere around neutral. I'm guessing it's on the basic side of neutral. And the reason why is that there's exposed bedrock going all the way down into the base of the river. And very hard to see how it wouldn't be leaning towards the base side with that much bedrock exposed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right
You're
on.
bringing on a lot of hardness. So you had great success with breeding them in hard water, just out of the tap, dechlorinated. But what we have down here, and we don't have very high pH, but we have a lot of minerals. And depending on where you are, the water is even harder. And just between me and Jody, who are just a few miles apart, I'm a water nerd. We brought over the TDS meter, and we had 50 TDS separate from his tap and my tap.
200 and some, I think.
Yeah, so he was on like 280. He's like 300 and change.
Yeah, sure.
So everybody's going to be a little bit different, but we're all generally the same watershed. So it's that hard water. That's great because a lot more people have hard water than soft.
And what's really neat about South Florida, at least the area that we are in, is that this whole area was built on reefs. And so when they actually go through the construction and they strip out all of the top overburden, the rock that's there is reef rock, and you can
Yeah.
actually see reef structures inside
yeah.
the rock.
Yeah.
I have
So
quite a
it's
bit
really
of
an
it here in the fish
interesting
room.
part of the geology of South Florida.
Yeah, if you get down on the pavement, there's actually little seashells in our pavement.
Yeah, yeah.
There is.
Yeah, I struggled with them in the beginning. I thought maybe my water was too hard. I have cichlid sand in there, and then I added some branches just to try to maybe neutralize that a little bit. And that's when I had success. But there could have been a lot of different factors involved in it. You know, I didn't have dithers, then I did, and then they killed the dithers. But that was the first time they had babies. So then I added some plecos, you know, and now we seem to be doing good. They're super, super fun. And again, thank you very much for giving me those.
And I'm glad you've brought that up, because we've said that they were community fish, but when they have babies, they're like any acara. They will vigorously defend their young. They will take their young to different parts of the aquarium. And yes, if fish are too close, they will
Yeah.
actually defend
I mean,
them.
they're hard on each other when they're spawning. There are acara species, and so many people love acaras. And I'm learning now that so many more acara species that I didn't even know of that are out there.
Yeah.
How many different like subspecies, or are there any that go with the Krobia here?
I'm going to be honest with you. I cannot tell you exactly how many there are, and there's many of them being found.
Yeah.
Even now, we're finding new species of them. But generally speaking, there are some trend lines with the acaras. And you mentioned that the pair were really aggressive towards each other. I actually did see that when they were kept alone. But when they're kept as multiple pairs on the opposite side of the tanks, you see a very different behavior.
We're going
from
to add my pair that I got from you. I picked through a whole bunch of them that I got from you a year or so ago, and we're going to actually add those into there, remove those dithers, and see how it goes. I'm looking forward to adding them in. Somebody's going to change colors. I'm hoping they all look like those up there. Maybe they'll both stay different looking. I doubt it, but I like it. They look great.
I have video of them actually as pairs charging each other and literally trying to show off, saying,
you
"I
gotta
was a bad one,"
send me the
from
video.
opposite side
Yeah.
of the tanks.
Yeah, there doesn't.
It was actually a really interesting behavior. That's why I said, if you keep them in two different pairs, you start to see that those pairs will bond with each other, and
Yeah.
they will literally
Yeah.
defend as a team.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if they don't have any outlet, they start looking at each other as the one they have to defend against.
They got to protect somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I looked into these fish really super hard before we made this video. I looked into them really hard after I first got them from you. I had known about them prior, not very much. The information that's out there and the information that you yourself know, Anthony, is, I think you have as much information as the people who describe these fish. So I did find out, I reached out to the guy, his name is Sven O'Colander. He's a Swedish scientist. He still works at the Swedish Science Museum. I was all excited, and he was great. He got back to me, and he said, anytime I want to know anything about science, he'd love to talk. He said, but one thing I have to tell you right off the bat, I've never been there and I didn't catch these fish. I'm the scientist who did that. And I was really bummed out, and I was like, oh, well, he'll talk about, maybe some math or something with me one day. Then I thought about our friends who do this, and this is their job. They go out and they collect fish from the wild, and that is what they do for a living. They don't describe them either. So it's more than one person in the mix here, and it's just
I have
great.
to tell you, I find that really strange, because when you talk to archaeologists who find artifacts, they are meticulous in the substrate, the strata where they find them. They take pictures of it so they can document everything.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why that is not the case with some of these fish. Maybe they're buying them from the natives who know where they are, and they're not actually going there.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it's kind of sad, because
he
we're
has
missing a lot of information that way.
I had told you the other day, I forgot there's a Geo, right? Was it a Geo named after him too? This
Yeah,
fan?
Geophagus sveni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and-
a really beautiful fish.
and
too,
I
as
don't,
well.
now I have to reach out and ask him that too.
Well, a question I probably should have asked before we set the tank up is,
Okay.
are they safe with plants?
Okay. Yes, with one caveat. So when I started to take the pairs and put them into single tanks,
Okay.
I had them with things like Coreodoros, and they wouldn't attack the Coriodoris, but if they thought the Coriodoris were getting too close, they would clear some of the plants.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
that they couldn't sneak up.
Yeah, get
So
rid of the hiding area.
That is
yeah.
the one caveat
Yeah.
I'll put on there, but otherwise they're very good citizens.
You know, that's protecting their babies. So something that I had mentioned to you that you said you didn't notice is I noticed they dig this tiniest little holes inside of there, and I have leaf litter in there, and he'll drag the leaves around. They're little, so he drags them around pretty dang well. When I had the bigger leaves, you know, it was a little bit of work, and then they sit and they cover up their babies and whatnot. Now, you told us how this tank is. I saw the dive videos that were just like that, really rocky. Some places were deep, some places were fast. A lot of the video is from in the beginning when they first started finding them. They're finding out they're a little more widespread than we thought. So maybe the care species thought is a little bit out there, because I was thinking of when they thought they were only from a couple places that, you know, the smallest accident can alter that. Well, now they're finding out, and we are too, that's probably why they're not. They do find them in other places. I watch a lot of video to find plants in sand and water.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that little piece off of the tributary video and shallow water where the Krobia were with the plecos, and I ran with it.
Yeah. And
it's going to be tough getting the babies out.
well, yeah,
Very tough.
You know,
And then we'll change the tank. It'll be
and
time
we're
for
gonna-
Monacaros.
yeah, and we're gonna definitely talk about that in a little bit, and the setup of the tank and how is he going to get the babies out and what the demands of the tank were. But I wanted to know more about the fish and the breeding. So Anthony, tell me, like, what are the characteristics they go through when like, do you need to do water changes to make them breed? Like, you know, with all these different, you know, questions about how does it promote the most?
So as a breeder, I really, that's one of my focuses, and that's one of my goals, is to breed as many of these rare fish in the hobby as possible. And to directly answer your question, I don't know, because here's the thing: as a breeder, I'm a big believer in you must change out the water.
Yeah.
I know that this is a hot topic in the hobby, but as a breeder, I have found the most success in changing out water. And you have to remember that in these natural systems, water gets changed out constantly.
Every day.
So every day, every second.
Yep.
So I think for us in the hobby, if your goal is breeding, I think changing the water is something that is a must. You cannot get around it.
And what size tank were you breeding these?
75 is what I was using to breed them.
And how many? You had 2 pairs in the 75?
2 pairs in the 75, and the way I set it up was that in either side I set up rocky structure and some logs.
Okay.
So there were both.
Okay. And some just light plants. What kind of plants?
Actually, no.
Nothing. No plants.
There were no plants in there initially. Okay. Initially, I just went with the rocky structure, and I had just went. It was actually dragonstone because it was neutral. I didn't want it to actually affect the TDS of the tank, and I was also using driftwood. It was driftwood for that one. That tank.
Nice.
Mapani.
Mapani woods.
Yeah.
And so
nice dark water.
Nice. It was dark. I was gonna say there's a lot of tannins in the water, or no, or
I run Purigen. It was really hard also finding good data on the Rio Xingu and the actual fish that came from there. And so, yes, you would normally associate that with tannin-filled waters, but I didn't want to assume.
Yeah.
So I tried to approach this with assuming nothing.
Yeah.
So I did it the way I normally would do it,
Okay.
and I relied on a lot of chemical filtration in addition to frequent water changes to make certain the water was polished and sparkling.
Well, one of the things that Jody and I talked about initially, this tank, you know, the first day it was dark tea, and you know, a couple of water changes in, and here we are. And it's a little tint to it, and it's not too bad. But he's like, how am I going to run, you know, Purigen? You know, you put a hang-on back filter on there for more flow, and so we can run it in there. It's really, you know,
I think I'm going to leave it now. Because
Yeah.
as they start breeding in there, I'm going to have to keep changing the water every week to get them to hit. That's the same thing Anthony, you know, what he taught on. I have a lot of tanks, and I'm on both sides of team water changing.
I've had a lot of thoughts on this myself. I will tell you that I think one of the final bosses for breeders like me,
boss.
is that you have to realize that there seems to be two different divisions in the freshwater fish. Some that actually tolerate hard water very, very well, and some that absolutely do not.
Yeah.
And I'm now finding a lot of these fish that seem to not only require soft water, but they require tannins as well.
Yeah.
So
We're dealing with that at your house right now.
yes, I have one example in my house right now. I have a lot of the Acara species right now in my house, and I was having tons of problems with the Ivanacaras until I started running black water. And as soon as I started running the black water and the RODI,
We're gonna
it
beep out
changed
Ivanacara every
completely.
time we say it. I'm telling you, we're gonna release these fish when they come out. There's a couple guys doing them on a small scale. We're gonna beep that out. We're gonna be like, you guys want to know what that is, don't you?
well, honestly,
Save that.
that's why I do this.
Save
honestly.
that one.
I will tell you that I come from an era when, as I was a boy, I could go into any pet store with $10 and walk out with every fish besides discus.
Yep.
And
They weren't much more though.
well, they were
I'm
they were
50.
they were
So money.
significantly
That
more
was-
for me.
That was
They
No,
were
$10.
significantly
I'm
more for
saying
me.
than $10. They were.
Yeah.
That's like they were like.
Yeah,
$10.
The
when
thing
I-
is that
yeah.
some of these fish are absolutely gorgeous, and I could easily see myself as a youngster wanting to have those in my tank and not being able to have them because of the price. And I think that's a tragedy because we need to encourage young kids in this hobby to
Yep.
pick this up. And cost is prohibitive for them because they can't do it with their allowances.
and not really always getting value, getting sick fish, getting fish
Yeah.
that are
Oh yeah.
poorly bred. You
Yeah.
know, so
yeah.
I'm trying to bang those discus right now. Just that you bring that up and say discus. I have discus up there right now. They're priced beyond competitively, half the price of what they are, and I think that's a really good amount for them. I really wish I could get these hitting on tap water so I didn't have to work on them as hard. I see why they're an expensive fish when you work on them.
because you put a lot of work into them.
Yeah, these fish here have bred. They all bred. I have babies from all three of the pairs. I can't get them to go here, but yeah, fish price is huge.
Yeah, I when I bought my Crobias, my first 8 were $40 a piece.
Yeah.
Wow.
And $40 is a lot of change for it. And not everybody can have that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the tragedies of this species is that it was so rare that there had a rarity price on it. And I think that's what's kept them out of some of the tanks of hobbyists here because they're gorgeous.
So-
the truth is when they get adults, they're gorgeous.
So
Yeah,
when you mentioned before, is this a CARES species fish? Did you say before?
No,
or
it
is
is not
just
a CARES
not. It's not.
species.
Okay.
It is not a care
Is
species.
it considered endangered or risked or anything like that?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. In the day and age that we're working with right now, and in South and Central America, with
Everything
gold
is.
mines and slash and burn farming, everything
Just
is
Everything could-
precious at
yeah.
this point in time.
So we
Everything
think
could
they
change.
should be, Bill, as hobbyists and people that are in the CARES program and our scientists and stuff, but their government doesn't think they
It
need
doesn't
to be.
meet it doesn't meet the legal standard, but the reality is that environment is always in danger, and to keep these, and to preserve this, and if we do end up able to turn the environment around to be able to repopulate with natural species, so that's the CARES program. If anybody really doesn't know the gist of it, but is that like a big thing for you? Is fish that are hard to breed or risk or?
Yes, in fact, I have made it a specialty of going after hard to breed, hard to acquire fish, simply because I want us to do this in the hobby and take the pressure off the stocks in the wild.
Well,
So that's one of the things that I think as hobbyists, it's one of the ways in which we can be good global citizens to not only do this, but to spread out what we're doing, because a lot of the fish that we have in the hobby right now, they're not in the wild anymore.
No, they're
Yeah.
not.
And we need to be very mindful of this because we have lost a lot of the biodiversity, and we really didn't know we were losing it at the time. I would go back to the cichlids of Lake Victoria, which is where I got my start, is in the African cichlids.
okay.
And there
They're
are
easy to
so many things that we lost. when you go back and look at the Cichlids of Lake Victoria book that was put out, I mean, most of those fish are gone and gone for good.
What we're going to have to do is we're going to just have a whole segment, and we're going to interview you about your hobby and the career, because we're going to just go on forever because it's super interesting. I want to know more. But yeah, maybe we even do our first live. But yeah, I would love to know more about, you know, how you got into it, because this is the opposite end of the realm. You know, I'm learning. It's great for me because I've never bred anything. So just this experience has been wonderful, and I'm learning a lot as we go along. But I know, Jody, you had a bunch of stuff. Do you have any more questions you want to?
Yeah, I've just been asking them the whole
just
entire
asking.
time.
You guys are chatting because I was running late. So.
Yeah. I asked them. I asked a lot here too. You know, a lot of them are questions that are just about the breeding that we covered that, you know, I kind of learned along the way. But
well,
like I had said, he has as much information on these fish in his lone brain as that there's available on the internet.
Yeah, let's do a little bit more about them, because I know like I had a lot of questions when setting up the tank. You know, we weren't going for anything that was actually a mimic of the environment that they're in, but just some things that kind of would be aesthetically pleasing, kind of like where a hobbyist is going to land, and comfortable for the fish that we're about to keep. Now, if we can get them to breed in there, that's even greater. But you know, let me know, like, what was your tank setup? Like, Jody's telling me they need some hard rocky surfaces, some wood, you know. So okay, we put that in there. We didn't really we were in the same boat that you. We only had really rock on hand that was going to change the water parameters. That's why it's not a lot of rock in this tank. So we didn't have a lot of, you know, like you said, dragonstone, which is great, you know, to put in there. But needless to say, got some big pieces of wood, got it set up looking pretty good. But what was your setup, and like, what was the process that you witnessed them breeding?
So when I got mine were the size of a quarter.
Oh.
And I will tell you, they grew very quickly in a 75, but I also fed them top quality food. That's something as a breeder you've learned. It's one of the tricks you learn as a breeder.
What was your food?
It's usually enriched brine shrimp. And it's fluval bug bites. And the reason why I chose bug bites, it was very purposeful. It's because bug bites is made from black soldier fly larvae. And I strongly suspect, from just seeing the behaviors of the fish, that what you're seeing in the wild is that they're eating small crustaceans and bugs.
Yeah. They love black soldier fly larvae. I have a 2-pound bag up there, and they're dried. I got it for the turtle to supplement his food, and they absolutely love them.
Yeah. You know what? I actually found some black soldier fly larvae that was meant for chickens, and I tried grinding them up and putting them inside a rapashi just to see what they would do with it. They unfortunately didn't eat it, but it was one of the things that I tried.
Experimentation.
And by the way, I love rapashi. That's not on rapashi at all.
That's
just something I tried. I love rapashi.
You condition them to breed them and stuff, or did you let these guys be, because they were in a species tank? So did you kind of leave them be, or did you actually get them ready and condition them with other foods?
You know,
more live foods.
I once I had them as adults, they were breeding. They were pairing off rapidly.
Okay.
So I would say about 2.5 inches is when you're going to see them leave their ugly fuzzy stage. And they're going to start adopting a much stronger coloration. That's the first sign that they are getting ready to enter the adult phase. Yep.
Those are from your house right there.
It is exactly what you would see, that kind of patterning. The bold patterning where the lines are beginning to show up, that's when you know that they're entering the adult phase. And they've left the ugly fuzzy stage. So.
How long until they become their full-grown size, and what's their lifespan?
I can't tell you what their lifespan was, because again, my mission was to breed as much of these as I could, quality fish as I could, selecting against any sort of abnormalities that I found. And I would have them for 5 years.
Okay.
So the pair up there that I gave Jody were 5 years old. They're from the original pair, the original 8. They were breeding up to like a month ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they're still in breeder shape.
And they're healthy. They look great.
She's
They're looking great. They look very healthy and don't look, beaten up.
One of the good things about being a breeder is that you keep things in tip-top shape always.
Well,
you have to in order to keep them focused on breeding.
When you called me and asked me if I wanted these, I almost died. I was like, what? I didn't even know what to do. I was so excited.
Well, remember, Jody, my aim was to get them out in the hobby.
And how many did you end up breeding?
Oh, hundreds.
And
Hundreds.
You recently just sold some to Dan's Fish,
I
right?
did, yes. I was so honored that Dan actually wanted my fish.
I was so honored that we're in the same fish club.
Yeah. You guys, this is why it's important to be in a fish club.
That's right.
And I have to say, if you're looking for fish and you really want a good breed stock, you need to go to Dan, because Dan sources from hobbyists. Right. If I'm looking for high quality fish to serve as breeders, that's the first guy I look to. Dan is fantastic.
The best pea puppers I ever bought were from Dan's Fish.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm telling you what.
And you know how just behind the scenes, when I was talking to Dan, one of the things that I asked for was for him to use his vets. He has vets.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
And analyze your fish to give you health reports on your fish as a breeder. I cannot tell you how valuable that was for me.
Yeah.
I was certain that I didn't have anything, but how certain can you really be?
And reinforces that you're raising a healthy fish. What you're saying, I think, is healthy now is reinforced with the fact that, yes, you were breeding healthy fish.
Dan's credit, he would actually tell me. Yeah. And that's something that is invaluable as a breeder. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it.
We shipped those fish to him, and I waited and waited and waited. I'm like, they're not listed. I'm like, waited and waited and waited. And then they were listed, and I was like, oh my gosh, finally. And then, they're all good. That's so exciting. So Dan's got a pile of them. If you need some, definitely go on there and check them out. As soon as Dan is done or getting close on his numbers, I'll start selling the rest of your last batch.
Yeah, we want to. We're Uncle Joe's Fish Shed is a boutique, where Dan's Fish is a much more nationwide availability, and that's the goal here, is to get this out to other people that can breed these fish and get them repopulated back and in the hobby. And they are absolutely beautiful fish.
But for Bill and for everybody else, like, once they spawn out and they're extremely rough, like we said on each other, like, how long until we get some free swimming babies, and how long until they go from that, and we can share a little bit of differences in that, and what we experienced. I had brought up already, mine dug holes and stuff and covered them with leaves. But how long? What's the time frame on that? And time frame until how they breed again?
So the very first few days, they're going to lay them on a site that they've cleaned. So it's very Acara behavior. The second phase they'll do, you'll notice them digging. And so I would encourage you, if you're going to keep these, to put them in sand or small gravel, like you have up there. That way they can easily dig out these little tunnels, or not tunnels, holes. And what those holes are, you can think of them as playpens for the little babies, because when the babies are born, they don't have any control over where they're going to swim. And so that little depression acts as a way of keeping them all in an area. And when they tend to get out, the mom and dad will gently scoop them up and put them back in. So that's phase 2. And I would say about a week and a half later, they're going to be at a point where they're small fish past the larval stage, and you're going to start seeing them test their tails and start moving.
Yeah.
And that's when the parents will start looking for taking them from place to place. And that's when, as a hobbyist or a breeder, this is when they're starting to look for food.
They just start moving around.
And their first food would be baby brine shrimp. I never tried Aquarium Co-op's small fish food, but I will tell you that they readily ate. They're not like rainbow fish. They readily eat baby brine. So,
yeah, they're decent. They're a decent size.
Yes.
So, like you had mentioned before, you had yours all rocky and stuff like that. So, and from what you had saw, they came from deep rocky water. I looked at videos until I found what I wanted to help make my tank, because I read two conflicting things, but most of what I saw was the other. And I noticed with the leaf litter and stuff, and maybe we mentioned this before, that they take it and they cover the babies up, and then they move them, and then they cover it up. And It's just absolutely amazing.
And that's wonderfully consistent. I will say that I'm new to the leaf litter bottom. Ivana Cara pushed me there, but when I was breeding Krobia, I never tried leaf litter. So what you saw is actually really it makes a lot of sense because that would help keep them in the depression.
I'll throw
of the
some
babies.
shots, give shots.
Yeah, that's actually really valuable documentation.
I'll
I would love to see it.
How long until they'll readily breed again? Like if I pull those babies out, how long until we can get them going again? Because if they're like other Acaras, I mean, they should just be whack, whack, whack. You could probably just keep them pumping babies or eggs out if you wanted to pull eggs every couple of weeks, I'd imagine.
Beauty of being a breeder is that you feed the best things. They're ready in days.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are literally ready in days.
That's just a testament to how important food is to a fish's health and that, you know, how you're feeding your fish is directly going to respond to how they're going to react. And there's nothing wrong with not feeding your fish heavily, but don't be expecting, you know, Olympic sports when you're eating, you know, Snickers.
And I would also encourage people that are breeding these fish, don't use them like factories to create more fish. I would encourage you to leave the babies in for a while. And the reason why is you got to let the mother, who's got a huge investment in the eggs that went into this, recoup some of that energy.
Oh, yeah.
And so otherwise you get I've seen it before in cichlids where the mother starts looking really, really haggard. And it's not very healthy because all of her energy is going into
if
eggs.
you breed the fish, they only live for 2 years. If you don't, they'll live for 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think they could probably live for 4. And in all reality, maybe they'll even make it a little bit longer because they're happy and they were actually a mother for a while. You know, who knows really with that.
And I want to stress, I think that's abuse. I'm going to be honest with you. I think as hobbyists, we absolutely have a responsibility, even as breeders, to make certain that we are caring for the fish under our care in the absolute optimal way possible. And so to treat them like baby factories and then take the babies out so that you can breed more, that to me is something that I would never do. I think that's immoral.
That's why I don't have discus babies yet, I bet.
Yeah. But, you know, it's an interesting thing because, like, for me, a lot of the fish that I keep will eat their young, you know, egg scatterers or live bearers and stuff like that. And so this is an interesting, there's a lot of husbandry going in. And do both the male and the female share that responsibility of raising the young?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, they absolutely will. What I saw was that when I kept multiple pairs together, that pair acted like a unit. They would literally go in and together start patrolling around as they were leading the babies to the next site where the babies were going to graze. And that's
literally exactly what it looks like. It looks like they're taking their kids out to graze.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Just like the Tanganiki and shell dwellers. They let them graze is what I say. And when something comes up, even a big snail, the grazing time's over. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's great information and how they, you know, ended up here and just the story behind them is great conversation. And so when we started this conversation was like, let's make something that looks good but fits form and function, because Jody over here needs to be able to take some pictures of the fish. This is also a tank that when we're doing our podcasts and our lives, we're staring at it. You guys are looking at PB Face and Paku, but we're looking at this. So I pulled some of my own personal stock, a big 6 foot long Vallisneria, a bunch of Bucephalandra, a flame sword. There might be a
Bill came walking in with his
sword. I just started ripping stuff out of my
huge box of driftwood.
Subwassatang.
Everything in there.
Yeah, basically,
the plants in the wood.
Basically, you know, I asked what is the demands of the fish, and so I had a very rough, you know, they needed some sort of sand or salt, you know, small grain. So Jody came through. What is this substrate we used in this called again? It's Carib Sea. It's Carib Sea.
And it's the river here. Carib Sea Peace River is what we use.
So it's Carib Sea Peace River, and we have some footage of us mixing it. We cut it with some black sand. So it'd be a sand river, mix. So it's really soft.
It looks really good.
And so what we did is we sloped it to give it some real good depth to it. And then because some of these plants are really heavy root feeders, we needed an aqua soil, but to fill a 60-gallon tank with aqua soil that you're not planting, beyond the fact that it's not really that good because
next month.
It's a clay base, and if they're diggers, they're gonna as they get older, especially, it's gonna be just a mess. So what I did was that we laid it out, and in the back we put some big stones in the very back of the tank to give it some height in the very back, and then we filled it with the black sand on the bottom. Then we put the gravel in, and then I dug depressions with my hands and backfilled it with some aqua soil where I knew I was going to plant. So just in the middle, in the back, and where this sword is, and then in this corner by this valve. So the rest of it, if they dig, they're not going to disrupt it, and it's not a heavily enriched soil. So I used UNS Contra soil, which is a great cation holder. It can exchange ions, but it's not enriched, so it wasn't going to cause an ammonia spike. So you have to put fertilizer in for it to grab and hold that fertilizer. You can use that in root tabs or through the water. But there was no reason to cover the entire tank. So we were able to save a lot of money, not go crazy. And the idea is that the tank won't be there forever. But what I wanted to do was build something that would go over the top and use a lot of the top area of the tank, giving the fish something overhead for comfort. And that's just, it's a general fish thing, is that if they can have a hide, but then big open areas where he can still shoot, video or pictures of the fish, and not have anywhere that they can't really be seen. So their hiding places are still in plain sight. So when it comes to time of getting babies out, that could be a real problem. And a lot of people have made that statement of, man, it's hard to catch fish out in a design tank. The idea of this tank was to minimize the hardscape. So they are just 3 big pieces, and he can just lift them out.
They actually come up.
And to come out pretty easy. And only one of them is screwed down to a piece of stone. The other ones are just sunk on their own relatively quick. We don't boil our wood. We don't do anything like that. And basically, it's an easy, redo. And I don't believe the tanks are forever. So you can always change that up. We can always do something if he wants to go more, all hard stone, and we can try that next, and we can see how they breed differently. And we were talking right before this, Anthony and I, of that, what he's going for in his tanks, like you said, is for them to be as productive as possible, where this may not be as productive as possible, but this may be more of the hobbyist, where they're going to land.
5 years old. They don't need to be productive.
And these are 5-year-old. This is landed in Florida.
If it wasn't these fish, and it wasn't the parents of the fish that everyone's talking about right now, bro, they wouldn't be in there. It's a discus garage.
Yeah.
They're gonna stay in there, and they'll probably live the rest of their life out.
Yeah, that was their home landing.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave them to you, because I knew you would take care of them.
We'll send a couple of the kids back to live with them now that they're getting older. Yeah. Maybe that's your grandkids.
So this was kind of just to put it together that you could have something that does look good and has some function. So work your form and function together. Initially, it was just 2 air filters because it's a fish room and it runs on all on air. So it had a decent amount of flow, probably not enough, and there's nothing wrong. That flow, keeping that suspended, is just great for the fish, great for water conditions, great for the maintenance of a tank that's 5 feet in the air and is, it's hard to service.
Yeah, I used the Tidal 110.
Bill,
that's what I was using initially on that, and I used the Tidal 110 because of the Purigen.
Yep.
I did not use the plants like you used. I mean, that was
Bill's design, putting the plants in there, and the way he pitched them works out really great. If you look up there, everyone, we're just all looking. You can't see. We'll put a picture up.
I know where you're going.
I don't know if you know, Anthony, but you do know about the Imagitarium video. That's Imagitarium tanks. There's 360s that are going to go there. I got to pick up the other one from up north because, it's the wet floor. Sometimes they're going to break. Look, so Bill had this set up before. I cut the piece of wood off so we could get it lower. I did put a lid on there, Bill.
Okay.
Look up in the air at the fish tank.
Yeah.
So tell me, there's no way it's manufactured that way. You can see the center brace is sagged in the water right now with the lids.
Center braces
So
into
it's
the
not
water.
getting flow like it does how you had it set up before. I can see some gunk in the water. I'll have to fix that later.
Yeah.
You know, one of the more interesting things about the way you set up the tank is that this would be a perfect setup for a pistos too. This is a really important point. As a breeder, my focus is different, but as a hobbyist, this is beautiful. This is something that you would love to have in your living room. This is something that would make people take notice. I think this is just great. This is one of the best things about our hobby. This is one of the best things about our hobby, is that our hobby can speak to many people. And in many stages of your hobby, your priorities are going to change. I will tell you right now, I know how my hobby ends. I absolutely know how it ends. So, and it's going to be very different from what I do here. And I must say, I'm jealous of people who can do things like this, because I cannot. But you know, this is just great, because this is the way in which we're different.
Yeah.
And you
and
truly
without,
brought a piece of nature into this area.
It's unbelievable.
And really, you know, for me, I couldn't do this without somebody out there breeding the fish for it, because it's the big picture, and it's part of it where I think we should really focus that there isn't any right and wrong. There are 100 different ways to get to your goal, and what is right for you is right for you. But I just encourage you to find somebody to help you educate through that way, and stick to that one person. Don't cherry pick details, but really find somebody that's had success and let them share their knowledge. None of us were born knowing this. We all learned, and we want to share that with you, and we want you to share that and grow the hobby too.
Yeah,
and
we're lucky to have Anthony and others.
Yeah, that's why we promote the Fish Club, because we are super lucky in the location where we are, with the amount of great breeders, the amount of great, just skilled, old school fish keepers. And believe it or not, this 6 foot had broken just because it's so hard to grow and keep managed, and it's in a 29-gallon tank. So it was going back and forth and back.
You have to look at the picture of it.
And it was, and I was happy because it really needed to remove it to get some more light in the tank. You know, yeah, you're not going to get a 6 foot valve somewhere, but that's what having
you can
friends,
if you join a fish
that's
club.
what having friends in a fish club will do.
You know, that's how we're able to even do any of this and present everybody, be able to sit down and chat, is because of the fish club. And you know, obviously, we're lucky to be in South Florida. So just Anthony, for one, loves South America and specializes in them. We'll continue to be able, in small little batches, offer these to other people, to anybody in groups, you know, to keep these out there, to get them bred, to drive that price down, to keep quality fish, clean fish in the hobby.
So important.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Just as important is a fish farm, just as important as Petco and PetSmart. I mean, as is the mom and pop shop. I mean, everything serves its purpose. But if you want to have nice, good quality stuff, that's what we're going to try to offer. And we're going to keep offering as many beautiful South Americans as we can from you, I tell you that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm super happy we did this, and I'm really excited. We're gonna put together a live probably with you, and that'll be our next thing. So I really just want to hear about your whole experience into the hobby, and you just dropped a little gold nugget. I want to hear how you know it ends. So, so let Anthony go, and
guys,
we'll put that together. We'll put that together too, just for the information keeping, because it's our job to gather the information and make it available, and that's what will give success. So if you end up somehow with Anthony's fish, you'll know exactly how they were raised and how you can raise your pairs and have them become responsible, great mother and father.
I want to thank everybody for watching, and everyone. This is Anthony, like we said before. Everyone can only be so as lucky as to have someone like him in their life to give all this good information up. Thank you for watching again, and remember to join your local fish club, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Looking out.